thank you so much for joining me on another episode where I'm interviewing some really exciting people on some really exciting topics. So please welcome my guest, Maria. Maria, thank you so much for coming on the podcast today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Macy, for having me. I am super excited to be here.
Of course. Well, Maria and I met from, I don't know if you guys have heard of this, it's kind of small, but we met at the TEDx Cherry Creek HS stage in Denver, Colorado, that we did not too long ago, actually. So it's still pretty fresh, I think, for us. But Maria gave an amazing talk that blew everyone out of the water. So I'm really excited to talk about her topic and just her experience on TEDx Cherry Creek HS. So, Maria, again, thank you for your time. First off, do you want to kind of kick us off a little bit and just tell us a little bit about your background and what you do?
Oh gosh, thanks, Macy. I have a lot to say about the topic of my TEDx, so I'm going to try to keep this really brief and high level. I am a corporate attorney by day, an author and parenting coach by night. That's what I tell most people. I'm a mom. I'm a childhood trauma survivor, and in short, when I became a parent, I realized how much like healing work I had to do, and that I had not had good parenting models. So in addition to kind of working on my own healing, I was simultaneously figuring out how to be a better parent and how to not repeat the mistakes that my parents made that led to like a whole host of problems I had in my adult life. So
Hmm.
today, I coach parents similarly situated to myself who come from kind of places of childhood abuse and childhood trauma and who are open-minded about learning about how to be a better parent.
Hmm.
And the subject of my talk was teens and boundaries, like how to help your teenager, how to empower your teen to have better boundaries. And the way to do that is a little bit counterintuitive. So I think there's a lot of information about there for parents, and parents are overwhelmed. But I really encourage parents to kind of follow their own intuition when connecting with their kids and their teens and prioritizing the relationship and the trust in the relationship, right, before trying to like impose rules and other things. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
that's so great because I think now more than ever, people are being more aware about it. But then there's
Right.
also a lot of pushback and I think misunderstanding on what a boundary is, especially for a teenager, right? Teenagers, speaking from one who was very recently a teenager,
Yeah.
we don't know the best, right? We
Yeah.
always think we do. And it's funny, I'm 21 now, but I remember when I was like 16, 17, 14, and I was like, yeah, I'm so mature for my age. And I look back and I'm like, I was not. I was not. So there's definitely this misunderstanding when it comes to boundaries and teenagers, especially being like, oh, so does that mean I let my kid do whatever they want? It's like,
Right.
no, that's definitely not what it is. But I think facilitating that environment that they feel like they can talk to you about these things is the
Mhm.
most important thing. So again, not going to get too much into this because obviously that could be at
Sure.
least a 9 hour podcast just to start the surface. So let's switch gears just a little bit and talk about your TEDx talk. So first of all, what even inspired you to apply for a TEDx stage?
Right. So I had a speaker coach who was kind of pushing me to apply, like, you should just apply. And I said, well, isn't it really difficult to get one though? And he's like, look, it's a matter of, applying to places where you think you'd be a good fit, where you think your message would bring value, right? And then keep applying. And he told me, this is somebody who's been a TEDx speaker like 5 times, who's a professional speaker. He told me they're not looking for a professional speaker. They're looking for a message that people need to know about. And I said, oh, well,
Mhm.
that's interesting. And it's funny because the TEDx talk that you and I did, the Cherry Creek one, like almost all the other TEDx events I applied to, I did a very formal application, right? This one, because it was about the digital age and it was geared toward like, it was organized by high school students, so it was geared toward not necessarily just high school students, but it was geared toward themes that are obviously relevant to like high school students and young adults in the digital age. I was very passionate about the topic and boundaries because it is extremely challenging. I'm a Gen Xer, and the Gen X parents were the first generation that are raising totally digital kids, and it is very hard. So anyway, my point is that when I wrote my summary to apply for this talk, I wrote it just from a place of like feeling about it, like intuiting, here's what I want to talk about, here's why this message is important. And that's the one that where I was accepted. It's just so interesting to me how it was really not a formalized process.
Mhm.
It was really just like, I'm like, this is a very important topic. here's the message and here's why I'm passionate about it. And I literally wrote it, I think, in like 10 minutes. It was just, but it's so interesting. So it's, people who I get asked a lot, as I'm sure you do too, like, oh, how could I get a TEDx talk, right? Well, it's a matter of applying, and you're going to be rejected a lot of places before you apply, but don't let that stop you. Like, keep applying, and eventually there will be a subject and an event that speaks to you where your message is going to be very valuable. So,
Yeah. That's so great to hear because I think we always get that advice of just be you, just be
right.
authentic, just be yourself. And sometimes you hear that and you go, okay, but like, what if that's not what people want? And I think the answer is it's always what people want. It just depends on who it is.
Right.
And it's so funny because I had a pretty similar experience in the sense that I had a speaker coach as well who was helping me a lot with my applications and everything like that. And we were doing like every other week check-ins on what's going on? How can I help you? Are you applying? And it was a Tuesday, and she was like, I'm gonna specifically seek out some high school stages for you. She's like, I think your resume will really resonate with high schoolers and young adults. She's like, so make sure you apply to those. The next day is when I got my acceptance email.
Wow.
Literally the next morning, not even 12 hours later. It's just crazy when we kind of look back and you're like, holy crap, like
Yeah.
they're always right. Like the coaches are always right,
Yeah, I know. And
know?
they're like, you just do what I tell you to do, and this will happen. And but you doubt yourself, right? You start to doubt yourself, like, well, and it's, even I'm in my 40s, I'm clearly a lot older than you. So even people my age, we don't have all the answers either.
No,
There's a lot
yeah.
of things we're still figuring out. But like, that's kind of the beauty of life too, is like, if I had it all figured out, like, what's the point of this journey, right? So
Exactly. So how did it feel when you got your acceptance letter?
oh my gosh, it was so Macy. I got the acceptance email the day of my son's eighth grade middle school graduation.
Oh,
So he and I were like getting dressed and prepping for it, and I got the acceptance email, and I was like floored, and I shared it with him, and he was so excited for me.
oh,
And I was like, "This is just so cool! It's so cool!" And it's funny, like he had texted me like right before I went on stage, and he said, "Mom, don't be nervous. You got this." So but yeah, it was just a real cool feel, like, oh my gosh, like I guess I'm doing this. I'm doing it, right? So yeah, but it was just like an incredible feeling. Yeah.
yeah. I don't know
That the
about you.
message spoke to somebody, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. I don't know about you. I think I had to read the email at least like 10 times
Oh yeah.
before I was like,
Yeah.
this is not another rejection email.
I
Like this is a
know.
real one.
Or they don't, like, there's no interview phase. Like
I
we're
know.
just like, that's crazy.
It
Cause I
was
had made the
nuts.
interview phase at another one, and I was
Yeah.
like, but I wasn't accepted to that other one. But I thought, well, that's a good sign, right? You're moving forward in the process. And that kind of gave me the
I know.
momentum to keep going.
It was so fast and they were telling me the
Yeah.
days I needed to prepare and stuff, like
Yeah.
for training and stuff. I was like, wait, we're going so fast. What are you talking about?
I know. But our
Um,
coach was like, you'll be fine. And she was right. We were fine.
we were
But
fine.
you have to trust the process, right? Yeah.
Speaking of, I would love to hear. So, for those who don't know, with TEDx Creek HS, and this isn't a TEDx thing; it's a specific stage thing. It's not all stages are the same, so I'll give that disclaimer out in case anyone's curious. But we worked with a really great speaker coach, and she was really helpful with refining our talks and giving us stuff to work on and how we can really make sure that our message is being received in the way we need it to be received. So I'd love to hear from you. How was the kind of the evolution of the talk for you? Like with the idea you originally submitted to what you eventually gave up on stage, like how was it going through that process?
Right. So the like my main idea pretty much stayed the same.
Mm,
So, I'm an attorney by training, right? So my my like impetus is to put all the relevant information
mm,
together in whatever, I'm creating, right? A memo, or in this case, the speech. But because we had the time limit, and because we really wanted to get the message across without any like superfluous information, I had to really pare down to kind of the meat of the issue, right? Because that's what you're talking about. So I was good about that, right? If something wasn't relevant to the talk, I would take it out. it's just not the platform for it. And as far as memorizing the stuff, I mean, I was practicing like multiple times a day. I told myself, you have to know this like as an automaton because you're going to be stressed on stage. You're going to have some anxiety. Like, I don't want to have to worry about forgetting. So I was drilling myself every day. And I had like our coach recommended, like, put different parts of the speech in different rooms of the house. Like, I did that. And I would practice in the car like tons of times a day until I remembered it because I was so worried about forgetting part of the speech or for getting things out of order when we were live, right?
Yeah, and I think a very interesting thing, because I did a lot of the listening too, but I was very intentional with how I listened to it because I was terrified of anything happening that was out of my control. So if I was like multitasking while I was listening to my talk, I was like, wait, I have to make sure I'm not doing this while I'm listening to my talk because then my brain is going to associate it with it. And then what if I do it on stage? It was like every thought, every worst case scenario was going through my head, and I was just like, "Wait, is this really actually gonna happen?" I'm like, "I don't know, but I better not risk it." There's just so much that goes into
Right.
memorizing your talk.
Right.
Um, but we did it.
Yeah,
So
totally.
how was it for you when, you you gave the talk and, you were nervous and you finally did it, and of course, now it's been, probably a week or so since it's been uploaded. So how is kinda life post TEDx for you?
It's good. It's funny because, and this happens with me all the time. I have so much anticipatory anxiety going into like a
Yes.
speech or a
Mhm.
talk or whatever, an interview or, when I do my YouTube lives or whatever. And as soon as I start it, like the anxiety disappears. So as soon as I got on stage, I'm not saying I didn't have any anxiety, but
Right.
as soon as I got on stage and started it, like everything just flowed really well. I mean, I remember in law school, man, having so much anxiety about the exams. And as soon as I started writing, everything would be fine. I was like, you have to start writing, just write whatever, and everything will be fine. And that's exactly what would happen like every time. So I kind of knowing that I can manage my anxiety about like speaking, public speaking or whatever I'm doing. But yeah, that's how that process went. And then now I'm just doing a lot of networking with great people like you and figuring out where I can add value, how I can help people. I interview a lot of people in the kind of the parenting space for my YouTube channel, people who've written books, people who are parent coaches, people who have really important things to say and ways to help parents. So I give them a platform on my YouTube channel and yeah, figuring out how I can help and how I can help my friends and my networking buddies. And yeah, I'm always working on my next book, so I'm doing that, and that's how it's going. So it's going well, and I have a high schooler now, so my son's in a freshman. So I'm just making a point to spend as much time as possible with him because I mean, limited time with him at home until he goes to college, and that's
Yeah.
yeah. So
Giving up on
I
you.
mean, man, I mean, they tell you this when you have kids, it's like the time goes so fast. I'm sure your parents felt the same way with you guys. The time goes so fast. So that's like what I tell parents is like make the most of the time you have together because you may be irritated with them now, but you will miss them at some point and you will
Mhm.
wonder where all the time went.
Yeah, there's just so obviously I'm not a parent yet, by any means. But I just hear so many different parenting phrases, and I think one thing that I read recently that really stuck out to me is like my parents, like our parents, know us more longer as adults than they do as kids, and I was like,
Mhm.
wait, that's insane. Like it's
Yeah.
true, obviously, because
Yeah.
you only live up to 18 as a
Yeah.
teenager, as a child, and then of course a lot of the social expectations you go out and you're on your own completely now. And it's really important to spend those 18 years, like you've talked about, of just setting all of the right foundations in place, and nothing's going to be perfect, of
Yeah.
course, but setting enough of that environment around you and your relationship with your kid is really important. So you gave an amazing talk. I loved it.
Thank you
You
so
had
much.
such a, I think you had probably one of my favorite beginnings to a
Oh,
talk
thank you.
because I think it's just, it's, I'm not going to say it because I want to create enough curiosity for people to go
Thank you.
watch it. So go watch the talk. I'll make sure I have it linked in the description and in the notes or
Thank you so
whatever
much.
to copy and paste. But definitely go out and check Maria's talk. It's an amazing one because our talks are really what is your talk? Maybe 7 minutes-ish?
It's like
8
eight
minutes.
minutes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So it's definitely worth it. You can start your coffee in the morning, and probably by the time your coffee's done brewing, you've already finished the talk. So go ahead, take your time, watch it. It's a great one. So Maria, thank you so much for coming on, sharing a little bit about what you're doing, your talk, and this just amazing experience that you and I both had the pleasure of doing together. So I really appreciate your time today.
Thank you so much, Macy.
Of
Appreciate it.
course. And to everyone watching, I really appreciate you as well, and I will see you next time.